Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 26th of May, 2021. Alright everyone, let's get right into it. So, yesterday, just after I did the refuel, actually, a couple of hours after I did yesterday's refuel, Gitcoin announced the launch of their governance token called the Gitcoin Governance Token with the ticker GTC. Now, for those of you who have probably been following Gitcoin for a little while now and saw that post that I spoke about, I guess like the other day where they kind of detailed their plans to decentralize, I did say that I was expecting a token sometime soon, and here we are. No surprise here. I think a token is a central part of decentralization plan, if that's the path that you want to go down, which I do think most projects are going to be going down in the future here. But on that note, it's really good to see this, I think. I think out of all the projects that I guess like I can think of in terms of like ones that should have a token or need a token or whatever, I think Gitcoin having a token makes the most amount of sense. And the reason why I believe this is because Gitcoin as a platform really is meant to be a DAO in my eyes. It is a fully kind of open source platform that wants to encourage open source software development and funding, and basically, is definitely probably one of, if not the most community-oriented product in the entire ecosystem. We've all used Gitcoin before, I'm sure, to donate to various projects on there, and obviously to donate to the Daily Gwei and things like that, which I thank you for, of course. But I think that there's a lot of things that this token can be used for and used to govern, right? For example, at the moment, the way that Gitcoin grants payouts are distributed via a multi-sig. I'm one of the multi-sig signers, and there's a bunch of us on there, but obviously that's not very decentralized, right, to do the payouts there. So obviously putting a token in here and having the token holders kind of like delegate their votes to trusted parties in the industry, or to basically kind of like, do all this kind of stuff out in the open makes a lot of sense, I think. And on top of that, you also have the fact that there's so many other things going on with Gitcoin, specifically, with grants, dispute resolution, right? To scale that up to be able to handle the kind of like, I guess, growth that Gitcoin, that we all believe Gitcoin's going to see, you kind of need a global decentralized community to handle this, of course, as well. But yeah, there's this whole kind of like post here, of course, you can read for details on the token, kind of what the distribution's like and things like that. There, of course, was a retroactive airdrop of 15% of all the tokens, of the 100 million tokens here, were airdropped to people based on a number of different factors here. So there was, most of it was airdropped to people that provided gross marketplace value, which is essentially both spenders and earners on the platform. So this kind of like included all of the Gitcoin grants platform and bounties and things like that. So if you had donated to projects, you got some tokens. If you had made money via, I guess, the the platform through donations, you got some tokens. And then there's a bunch of other things you could do as well that kind of rewarded you with tokens here. The airdrop, I think at current prices, what is it, $7 or something? It varied greatly. People, some people got like a few thousand tokens, some people got a few hundred, some people got a lot more. So depending on what you got, it definitely wasn't a negligible airdrop, which is really, really cool to see. In this case though, like, the token, I feel, is one of the tokens that you definitely want to hold on to. Not to say that you can't sell it if you want to. Of course you can, and not to say that I might just hold on to my tokens forever too. But I think for me, I delegated my tokens to my good friend Trent, who's a steward of Gitcoin here, and I want to see what kind of like he does with his voting power. He's very great as a community member, and there's a bunch of others on there as well. Actually, there's so many on there on the Gitcoin kind of like stewards thing here. If I go into, that's the blog post here. If I go to gov.gitcoin.co, I can probably see, how the governance forum here, and basically this is the post where everyone kind of like put their name up to be one of these stewards. So there's tons of people in here right now. I was going to do it, but I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have. So maybe if I find some time, I'll do it. But as I said, I delegated mine to Trent Van Epps, but there are so many good people here that you can delegate to. And if you want to know kind of like who shares your values and kind of like who would be best for you to delegate to, definitely check out this thread, because it's got people's kind of, I guess, like description about themselves, their statement of intention, qualifications, and all those sorts of things here. So definitely check that out. And if you haven't claimed your Gitcoin token airdrop, definitely do so. I actually thought the airdrop claim process was pretty cool. You had to answer a few questions and kind of watch some videos, and then you went through this whole process of like, delegating your tokens if you didn't want to vote on your own. and then you could claim the tokens here. So it was more than just like a standard airdrop where you click a few buttons. It was actually a way to kind of get involved with the platform and learn what it was all about. So kudos to the Gitcoin team for doing this. I really enjoyed that. And speaking of airdrops, I have a tweet that I put out today where I said, Alpha Leak, which should actually be very obvious at this point, it's best to assume that every single project in this space will eventually have a token, for better or worse. And it will probably airdrop some to early contributors or users. Position yourselves accordingly. Now, I put this tweet out because I get questions about it all the time. Like, no joke, I probably get 10 plus DMs about this a day, about will X project have a token? If it's a crypto project, you can basically be guaranteed that at some point in the future, it will have a token, like pretty much all of them. There might be one or two or a handful that don't have a token for whatever reason, but I think tokens are just like the new equity at this point, right? Instead of kind of going public on the stock market or something, you basically create a token and you go public to the community. And I actually think this is a better way to go public, because you basically get to reward all your early users and contributors. Yes, maybe a lot of them will dump the token, but the thing is you then have like a core set of holders who didn't dump because they actually want to be involved in your platform, and you get like a lot of free marketing too. I think the Uni airdrop was like amazing marketing for Uniswap, even though Uniswap is obviously already big and was already big at that point. It was just absolutely amazing marketing for Uniswap there. So yeah, I'm just going to assume, like, even if, like, people are asking me, okay, well, what projects? I mean, if you really think about it, literally any crypto project, and I'm even talking about things that you may not think will have a token. So for example, maybe something like CoinGecko, right, will have a token one day. Maybe something like Dune Analytics, right, and Nansen, all these kind of platforms that are quote unquote crypto, but may not be like a project or a kind of like service that you figured would have a token. I mean, I don't have any special insights here, but my bet would be on them having a token rather than going public on the stock market. And I think if Coinbase had been founded at a later kind of date in the life cycle of crypto, they would have done a token instead of going on the stock market. Because you can look at the exchanges, you know, Binance has its own token, FTX has its own token, OKX, Huobi, I think those have their own tokens too. It's not like this is an alien thing anymore. It's really like it's expected that you have a token at this point, or you will have a token. And I think there's multiple ways to launch a token. I think the days of just doing a public sale and not, you know, rewarding your early contributors or users are gone. If you don't do an airdrop, you're basically cutting off a lot of people, because they're gonna dislike you for that, right? They're gonna be like, well, you know, I use the product. I should, you know, why weren't the users and contributors given an airdrop? And whether this may seem, I guess, like a bit selfish or a bit entitled is a whole nother thing. I think making sure that you kind of like airdrop to your early long-term users and contributors is the best path forward here. And if you actually look at the way Uniswap did it, they favored earlier contributors rather than later ones. So if you had LP'd on Uniswap from day one, like back in V1, back in 2018 or whatever it was, if you had LP'd then, and then basically you were able to get like a lot of Uni tokens. And you know, the funny thing is that a lot of the early synthetic stakers, so SNX holders, LP'd the SNX the SETH ETH pair on Uniswap very early on, which really didn't have any impermanent loss or anything like that. And then from that perspective, they also got like a massive Uni airdrop. So if they held their SNX tokens, they got SNX rewards because they were staking their SNX tokens to generate this kind of synthetic ETH. They also held on to ETH, right? 100% exposure to ETH there. And they also got a price appreciation from SNX. And on top of that, they got this Uni token now as well. So it's just, I mean, it's pretty amazing like how early contributors to projects can be rewarded through tokens here. And it's kind of like an IPO because it's a one-time thing, but you know, you can do an ongoing thing where you reward contributors as time goes on. And I've spoken about how Index Co-op does this a lot in the past, but I think more and more projects are doing this. You know, Yearn obviously has a payroll where they pay out YFI tokens to people and things like that. But yeah, I think this is kind of like just the next wave and the evolution of going public. So I put out this tweet just before where I said, bullish on Ethereum scalability solutions, the game is about to change forever. Now, I know I've spoken about Layer 2 a lot, and I know that I've spoken about the fact that I've spoken about Layer 2 a lot on this refuel, but I think it is the most important thing to happen to Ethereum in a very long time, and I think we're like edging closer and closer now. As a lot of you may have seen on Twitter over the last few days, people are teasing this Arbitrum launch that's happening, the developer mainnet on the 28th of May. which is 2 days away now. And then obviously people are saying, well, shortly after the developer mainnet goes live, it's going to be available to all sorts of users to use, which it will be. So there's that, obviously the continued rollout of Optimism stuff. And I spoke about that yesterday. Obviously, I'm not just saying layer 2 here, I'm saying general scalability solutions. This includes the explosive growth of Polygon. And I actually saw that the Polygon POS chain flipped BSC in transaction activity today, which is really positive to see, because one of my kind of, I guess, things that I wanted to do as an advisor to Polygon is I wanted to spread the word about it enough that we actually kind of like killed off BSC. Like, I really do think BSC is a net negative for the entire ecosystem. I think that the sooner it dies off, the better. And I've spoken about how, the Polygon POS chain and BSC are kind of, I guess like both layer 1 blockchains. They're not, they're not roll-ups or whatever like that. And then, they're not secured by Ethereum, but I don't think that matters. And I've gone through my points about that before. I think what matters is the social aspect to it. So, that was kind of like one thing that I'm very happy to see. But there's so many other things out there. Like, I talk about the main ones a lot, but I retweeted a thread today from Hermes Network that said that they're going to be doing an EVM compatible layer 2 as well. There's so many of these things coming, literally dozens of them, and coming in here and live and working and all this sort of stuff that, once we kind of like just get more and more adoption of it, more and more devs building on it, especially on the generalized platforms like Arbitrum and Optimism and all the other ones that I've ever talked about. I'm not going to go through them here, but once that happens, I think that is, as I said, going to change the game forever, because people will be like, wow, Ethereum can scale, because the narrative is still that Ethereum can't scale, believe it or not. There's a lot of people out there who still say, oh, Ethereum's only for whales because of the high gas fees, blah, 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 blah. These people I don't even actually think use Ethereum. I think they tried to use Ethereum once and they, were put off by the gas fees. Well, that's fine. When the layer 2s are available and when all these apps are at layer 2, you'll be able to use layer 2s, just as easily with the same wallet, with Metamask, same block explorer experience with like Etherscan and things like that. And, those people will come back and enjoy Ethereum. So yeah, just wanted to make a note there. I'm not going to harp on too much about that. Move on for now. Actually, I guess speaking about layer 2s, Andy here from Fractional Art, which is a project that's fractionalizing ownership of NFTs, he put together this kind of like Uniswap governance proposal where he said, deploy Uniswap v3 to Arbitrum's mainnet. Now, a lot of you will know that Uniswap obviously has said that they're going to be deploying to Optimism, and I've argued before that Uniswap shouldn't be an Optimism maximalist. They should be deploying to every kind of layer 2 solution out there, and every other scalability solution in general. So Andy basically kickstarted this discussion on the Uniswap governance process here to basically get V3 onto the Arbitrum mainnet. Now, you may be thinking, well, can't anyone just deploy this to Arbitrum? I'm like, yes, they can, but they can't, because it's got a copyright license on it. So you're not allowed to take Uniswap V3 and deploy it on your own. There's legal recourse there because of the fact that it's not open for anyone to use. But in saying that, an anonymous person could do this, right? An anonymous group of people could do this, but there's still a lot of risk there. Whereas Uniswap, the company, can deploy it themselves and it'll be all well and dandy, which is quite funny there as well. But I think when you kind of look at this and you kind of look at the things that play around this, it's funny because like there's a bit of talk on Twitter about this, and I don't want to kind of like spread any conspiracy theories here, but if you just look at the players involved with Uniswap and Uniswap governance, from what I've seen, Uniswap governance is not very good, because it takes 10 million Uni tokens, which I think is like at current prices maybe $250, $300 million to even start an official proposal within the Uniswap ecosystem here. So obviously, there's no holder, the only people holding that many tokens are the team members and investors. And I don't know how much they participate in governance, but essentially to get that amount of tokens, you would have to get them delegated to you. And it's actually very hard to get 10 million delegated to you. So a lot of you will know that Paradigm, one of the best funds in this space, is one of the major investors in Uniswap, or they are the biggest investor in Uniswap, I think. They hold a lot of tokens, obviously, and they obviously are the biggest, if not one of the biggest investors in Optimism. So they have a vested interest to not see Uniswap v3 deployed to anything but Optimism. That is, of course, speculation. I think that the Paradigm team are not like maximalist in any kind of way here, but obviously their monetary incentive does not lend them to being like a multi L2 thing here. But in saying that, I think if Uniswap doesn't deploy to other L2s, they're going to lose market share to projects that do. Like I know that SushiSwap plans to deploy to Arbitrum here. SushiSwap has actually been gaining lately on Uniswap in terms of decentralized exchange volumes. They're already on Polygon. They're going to be on everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're on BSC actually as well. Anyway, I think that it's going to be a multi-chain ecosystem where I guess like most of the chains are layer 2s and Ethereum scalability solutions, and you can't just pick one and be done with it, in my view, because there's going to be users on Arbitrum that may not be on Optimism, and you're just going to lose those users to some other app if you're not on Arbitrum, for example, here. So very interesting to see this from Andy. I'm curious to see, where this goes. And speaking of Arbitrum again, MCDEX or MCDEX. I don't know how to say it, but I say MCDEX because obviously McDonald's. But basically, they're kind of like teasing, of course, that they have been on Arbitrum's testnet and they will be on Arbitrum's mainnet as well here. But this is a thread where they went over kind of like their experience with Arbitrum's testnet. So the user experience they believe is on par with centralized exchanges in terms of speed and cost here. The gas costs obviously are immensely cheaper. There's smooth and fast transactions and user experiences as well. So, and they put some stats here saying that the gas fees are up to 100 times cheaper compared to the Ethereum mainnet, and the sequencer model means that there's faster confirmations when trading and faster liquidation, allowing users to enjoy higher leverage. So, this is what Layer 2 is all about, really, is giving the centralized experience to people who want to use decentralized finance. That's really, at the end of the day, that's the core of it. In that, can we get to an experience that mirrors something that a centralized exchange or centralized database will offer you by using Ethereum as that kind of like security decentralization layer? Yes, we can. And it's coming with Layer 2. So I'll leave it at that for now. I've spoken about Layer 2 a lot here. Want to move on to this kind of like announcement that came out of Polygon today that I thought was very interesting. So Mihallo, one of the co-founders of Polygon here, basically shared a link from CoinDesk that said Mark Cuban has invested in the Polygon ecosystem. Now, this is an undisclosed amount here. We don't know exactly how much is invested into Polygon here, but I think this is a huge vote of confidence. And I spoke to Mihallo about this, and he basically said that he was just blown away by the amount of knowledge that Mark had about not only Polygon, but about the Ethereum and DeFi ecosystem at large, and NFTs, of course, is very big there. And, I've spoken about this before on the Refuel, where I said that for someone like Mark Cuban, who is not crypto native, right? He wasn't born in crypto. He made his money from kind of like the internet boom, obviously a billionaire, and spends a lot of time doing other things, like he's really into his sports. But for someone like that to be as well versed as he is on Ethereum and DeFi is really, really awesome to see. And now obviously he's jumping down the Layer 2 rabbit hole. I think he has been for some time. I remember seeing a tweet from him when he was talking about roll-up solutions, or it might have been someone else. Maybe it was another famous billionaire, but definitely, Mark is very knowledgeable here. So great to see him supporting an Ethereum scalability solution in Polygon. And I think this is just a huge vote of confidence for Polygon as well, and we're going to get more eyeballs on the project. Now, obviously, again, disclaimer, I'm an advisor to Polygon. A lot of you know that by now, but I should just put that out there. But even if I wasn't an advisor, I would have thought this was cool. So Matt from Paradigm put out a really great tweet today that is basically summarizing a lot of the debates on Twitter lately, but I'll read out his tweet first. So he said, crypto may look like a speculative casino from the outside, but that distracts many from the deeper truth. The casino is a Trojan horse with a new financial system hidden inside. Now, some background here. You may have seen some threads on Twitter, and I got into it today with a few people about, is DeFi just speculation, and will it always be speculation? Now, I think you've got to take a step back here and look at just finance in general. When you look at finance, what do you see? Well, traditional finance, what a lot of us see is the non-speculative side to it. We take a mortgage, right? We get a loan for a car, or we access like banking services, like, I guess like payments and things like that. And we don't see the speculative side that backs all of this up. I can tell you and attest to this, like with near 100% certainty, that basically most, if not all, of the traditional finance system is based on speculation in the background. When you think about it, the bank is not giving you a mortgage for fun, right? They're making money off that mortgage. They're also speculating on you by saying, okay, well, you're gonna pay back your mortgage, and if you do this, we can make X amount of dollars over Y amount of years. And on top of that, if you're taking out a mortgage to buy a house as an investor, well, you're speculating on on property there, right? And then this is just like a very basic example here. People take out loans for all sorts of things. What about a business loan? You're speculating that you can take a business loan, put it into a business, grow a business, and basically make money, and then pay it back, and not default on it or anything. And the bank is also making a bet and speculating that you're going to do all that. You're not going to default on your loan, and it's going to be a profitable venture for them. So and also, like, when the banks take in deposits in money, that money doesn't just sit there doing nothing. That money is put to work. That's how they offer kind of like interest rates, and that's how they kind of like offer yield, I should say, is that they either lend out these assets or they put them into different kind of ecosystems, or the banks kind of manage their balance sheets in different ways and things like that. So in saying that, like, the fact that DeFi is extremely speculative today is actually a feature and not a bug. It is a feature of a financial system. It is how the entire thing works. It is how capitalism works. Without speculation, I think most of capitalism just wouldn't work. And by nature, humans love to speculate. Humans love to gamble, and there's nothing wrong with gambling. I think obviously, anything in excessive amounts is bad. Gambling or drugs or alcohol, like obviously all that stuff. But there's nothing inherently wrong with gambling. Like, I'll be honest. Like, if you're aping into random tokens, you're gambling, right? At the end of the day, if you have no investment thesis behind it, if you're just doing trading, I mean, there's a fine line between trading and gambling at the end of the day. And so to Matt's second part of his tweet here, where he said that the casino, the speculative parts of it, is just a Trojan horse for a new financial system. And I truly believe this, because for technologies to grow and grow as rapidly as they want to grow, you need to have kind of one thing that everyone enjoys doing, but it's kind of something you don't really want to talk about, or it's frowned upon. Think about the internet, for example. The early days of the internet were dominated by the demand for porn. Like, let's just be honest here. And there's actually tons of research and articles that show that this demand for porn actually drove demand for the infrastructure of the internet to make it faster to access these websites, and faster to kind of to upload this stuff and to produce it and to share it and all these sorts of things. And the porn sites on the internet are some of the most visited to this day. So, and that's just an inherently human thing, right? Like, we can't get out, we can't escape our sexuality. It's part of us. Just like being, speculating on things and gambling is part of what we are. We love doing this. And it doesn't even have to be a monetary thing. Humans love speculating and placing bets in all sorts of things, like not just on the monetary side of stuff. So if DeFi is speculative today, and that speculation drives infrastructure, like drives the adoption of this new financial system, and drives the adoption of Ethereum, then can you really say speculation is a bad thing? I don't think so. I think speculation is the best thing. I think it is the only reason why any of this stuff has value. And you can even go back to the early Bitcoin days. Look at what Bitcoin was used for. It was just for drugs, right? Most people used Bitcoin to buy drugs, but that caused demand for Bitcoin. That grew awareness for Bitcoin. That made more people be interested in it. If you go back and look at the price rise in 2013, a lot of it was attributed to the Silk Road mania, the Silk Road shutdown, because the Silk Road was one of the largest, or if not the largest, darknet marketplaces for drugs and all other kinds of vices. But when you when that got shut down, it brought a lot of attention to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was the main asset to use there, which meant that Bitcoin went into a very speculative bubble. But from there, obviously, Bitcoin has grown, and Bitcoin is no longer associated with drugs by a lot of people. Maybe people outside the ecosystem still do it if they're very uninformed, but Bitcoin has taken on like the digital gold thing. Whereas Ethereum, like, look at Ethereum's changing narratives over time too. 2017 was ICOs, was extremely speculative, driven there. But that put Ethereum on the map. That made more people pay attention to Ethereum. That made more money flow into Ethereum, and that made ETH go up in price. So at the end of the day, there's the trees, and then there's the forest. And I think if you miss the forest for the trees, as the famous saying goes, you are just simply not going to make it. That's what I like to say. You are simply missing everything here. And I think that just thinking beyond the, the surface level stuff is how you kind of make the best decisions in this industry, whether they be kind of investment decisions or personal decisions of where you're choosing to allocate your time. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Move on to the next thing here, which is a massive actual announcement. Maybe I should have spoken about this earlier, but my good friend Matt Finestone, who used to work at Loopring, announced today that he is going to be the head of blockchain at GameStop. So obviously a lot of us know GameStop these days as everyone's favorite stock, right? GME, Wall Street bets love it and everything like that. But they've basically teased that they're basically creating an NFT ecosystem here on Ethereum. That's the most important thing, of course, that it's built on Ethereum. It's not built on your favorite Ethereum killer or your favorite environmentally friendly blockchain. It is built on Ethereum. And I think this is in large part due to Matt Finestone, because he is an Ethereum maxi. I mean, maybe I'm attributing that kind of like title to him wrongly here, but I mean, I know him, he's a good friend of mine. He's definitely all in on Ethereum. So for him to be heading up this kind of initiative here is extremely positive. I can tell you that much now. You're going to see a lot of really cool stuff come out of GameStop. They're obviously not going to build everything on Ethereum layer 1. I think they're going to build on layer 2. I hope that they pick one of the existing kind of layer 2s like Immutable X or something like that. But they also launched a token. So they have like a GME token that basically when you decrypt it says that it's going live on July 14th. So it's here on Etherscan. If I was to go to Etherscan here, you can see the GameStop GME token. And then if you go into the contract and kind of decrypt the message in there, you can see that this is launching on July 14th. Now, I guess I'm assuming that this is going to track the GameStop stock, by issuing this token or something like that. Or maybe it's for something else. I'm not sure here, because maybe it would have made more sense for them to create a synthetic product. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but still, July 14th is also the date that 1559 is tentatively scheduled for. So maybe, I don't know if they were being strategic here. I don't know if they were kind of like doing this on purpose, but funny coincidence there. But still, great to see this. I'm really curious to see what GameStop does here, and super excited that Matt is heading this up. So Ryan Watkins from Messari put out a chart today that basically shows that ETH volumes have basically passed BTC volumes on centralized exchanges, on spot markets here. You can see that this has never happened before. I mean, it started happening kind of mid-April, but it's kind of like been consistent since then, only dipping below Bitcoin slightly, I think maybe a week or two ago, but since then it's been pretty consistently up. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because people typically refer to Bitcoin or BTC as like the reserve asset or the reserve trading pair of centralized exchanges, when this couldn't be further from the truth now, because ETH is now that. And ETH is not only flipping Bitcoin on kind of this sort of stuff, it's also nearing to flip Bitcoin on this as well, where basically the average slippage for ETH USD compared to BTC USD has come down dramatically and is actually almost on par with BTC. And I don't know why ETH is orange in this picture, but just in case you're confused there, ETH is orange and Bitcoin is blue. It should be the other way around. But that's just one there. And I spoke in the Daily Gwei newsletter today about like all the flippenings that Ethereum is currently experiencing with regards to Bitcoin. Except the only thing left really is market cap. But I also spoke about how I think measuring Ethereum against Bitcoin at this point is just a fruitless endeavor. Like, who cares, right? Bitcoin is what it is. Once we flip its market cap, I mean, it just becomes like, in my eyes, Bitcoin kind of like just becomes a relic. I actually have said this many times that I think eventually Bitcoin is even going to fall out of the top 10. That might be a controversial view here, but I kind of said in my newsletter that I think we should be focusing on comparing Ethereum to traditional finance, because that's what we're trying to disrupt. We're not trying to disrupt Bitcoin. We don't really care about Bitcoin anymore. We've already beaten Bitcoin at pretty much all these metrics. The only reason it has a larger market cap, I believe, is because it was earlier, it had that momentum, and more people need to understand why ETH is more valuable, which will happen in time. But if you look at like the comparison between, say, value settled on Ethereum compared to value settled on the Visa network or the PayPal network, I think Ethereum is already doing more value than maybe PayPal, more value settlement than PayPal, but not doing more transactions than PayPal or Visa or things like that. And then we can look at decentralized exchange volumes on Ethereum. Are they doing more than centralized exchange? They are on some days, and I'm talking about the biggest centralized exchanges here, and that's only on layer 1. We haven't even got a proper kind of like massive DEX on layer 2 yet. Like Uniswap isn't on layer 2 yet, for example. So once that starts rolling out, there's just no competition here. Ethereum is going to completely obliterate traditional finance and obliterate CeFi, which I actually consider centralized finance or centralized exchanges in the crypto ecosystem to be part of I guess, the TradFi or the BoomerFi, whatever you want to call it, the old world, they're just all going to get disrupted unless they actually adopt crypto. And I think they have a better chance of adopting crypto than obviously the traditional institutions do. But obviously PayPal's gotten involved with crypto lately. They enabled crypto buys and all that sort of stuff. Visa as well, they're looking into Ethereum. MasterCard invested in Consensus recently and is part of that. So they're all there, right? All these institutions are paying attention. Obviously the CBDCs are coming and things like that. So from that point of view, I don't see how Ethereum just doesn't completely obliterate not only Bitcoin, which in my view is just like a stepping stone, but also obliterate traditional finance completely across kind of with DeFi there. But also Ethereum is not just limited to DeFi. It's going to disrupt organizations and how we organize as a species. It's going to disrupt gaming. It's going to disrupt art and collectibles with NFTs. When you kind of put all that together, this is why I go on about my bull case, and this is why I made my $100,000 ETH price prediction. Like, I don't know when that's going to happen. This is why I've said this in the past, and why I've said, maybe ETH even goes to $1 million one day, is because of the fact that all the value of the Ethereum network is going to float to ETH, like everything happening because of the fees, with 1559, obviously with staking and things like that, it's all going to flow to ETH. If you take that kind of view, it's just very hard to imagine that if Ethereum succeeds across every vertical that it's trying to disrupt, whether that be NFTs or DeFi or DAOs or anything else we can think of, then there is absolutely no reason that ETH can't be worth that much. But anyway, I won't go on too much about that. I think I got a little bit more in my newsletter today if you want to read that. But just great to see that, I guess, ETH is flipping BTC on volumes here, because it means ETH is becoming more like the reserve kind of asset and reserve pair here for centralized exchanges. It already is the reserve asset within Ethereum DeFi, but it's good to see this happening within centralized finance as well. So bloXroute Labs have released a new DeFi service around MEV here. So what this service is called is Backrun Me. And what this allows the user to capture its own MEV. So basically, this is how you do it. You set your MetaMask to send transactions through bloXroute for front-running protection. What bloXroute will do is it What will happen when you send through bloXroute is that searchers will bid on this MEV. So MEV extractors will bid on this. And then you get to keep 25% of the MEV, with 50% going to the miners, 20% going to the searcher, and 5% going to bloXroute as a service fee here. This is, I guess, really cool because just another tool that people can use to both protect themselves from MEV and also profit from it. Because at the end of the day, MEV is going to take a while to get solved, like quote unquote solved, or at least minimized to a point where it's maybe not as, I guess, kind of parasitic as it is these days. So just more and more solutions coming out to match this, or at least to kind of service this demand, I think is really, really cool. So another token launched, actually. I think two more tokens launched that I'm going to talk about over the last 24 hours, in addition to Gitcoin's token. Ribbon Finance's token, the RBN token, launched. And for those who don't know, Ribbon Finance is a structured products protocol built on Ethereum here. They've been around for a couple of months now. But essentially, this token was, of course, airdropped to people who had used Ribbon Finance, who were active in the Discord channel and things like that. So congrats to people who got RBN tokens. I unfortunately didn't get any. I hadn't played around with their product yet, because I'm not someone who plays around with structured products normally. They had options kind of products on there. I just, I think those are more geared towards I guess traders and things like that and more active participants here. So I didn't get any tokens, but I still think it's really cool to see that this token's live now, and even cooler to see is that it's non-transferable yet. So you can't trade this, you can't send it to another address or anything like that. And this is to encourage people to participate in Ribbon's governance process. And you remember that Inverse Finance also did this, where they airdropped their token to a bunch of people who signed up on a Google form, and I got these tokens as well, and they were non-transferable for a while, but then you could vote in governance and do things with it still, and that led to a lot of governance participation and turnout, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, really cool to see this, and if you haven't checked it out, be sure to do so. And if you haven't claimed your token but you've used Ribbon Finance in the past, definitely go check it out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description below. All right, so the last token that launched is called XYZ, from the Universe.xyz initiative here. Now, you may never have heard of this project before, but basically this project kind of spun out of kind of like the Pepe NFT project, or NFPepes, or NFPs, as you might remember it. So this was about, I guess, this was I think it started like maybe 3 or 4 months ago now, and then it kind of evolved into this project because of unfortunately there was copyright disputes on using Pepe the character from the original creator, and they had to kind of like I guess like deal with all of that kind of noise there. But yeah, they relaunched as Universe.xyz here, which is basically I've spoken about it before. They're basically a kind of like NFT platform. They're trying to like do NFTs a bit differently here. But if you want to earn some XYZ tokens, you can actually farm it now. So I think they accept, yeah, it's here. So you can farm XYZ tokens with Aave, Bond, Comp, SNX, Sushi, Link, and ILV by just going to this website here, which will of course be linked in the YouTube description below. So yeah, if you're interested in doing some yield farming with these tokens that you may not be doing anything with right now, highly suggest going and checking this out, and highly suggest checking out the project in general. I think it's really cool. I can't wait to see what they do here. All right, that's it for today's episode, everyone. Thank you again for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.